This comment reminds me of an incident that happened to me when I studied abroad in Ecuador for a couple of months, and oof. There were a lot of race-related things that happened to me on this trip because I was the only Black person and one of only, I think, 3 people of color on this trip. 3? Actually, now that I think about it, it was me. There was a girl who was a Mexican. There was a guy there who was Puerto Rican. And the only other minority there was a white liberal lesbian. But I digress. The story's not about them. While I was studying abroad, I wasn't like doing it on my own or, like it was through the school, but we had host parents. And I got paired with a really sweet older lady, and her name was Irlanda. Loved her. Absolutely loved her. She was marvelous. But I do remember one of our very first conversations that we had when I got there, and it was about my boyfriend. She had asked if I had had somebody back home, and I showed her a picture. At this time, I was dating someone who was biracial. His mother was Black, his father was Indian, and he was about my skin complexion. I showed her the picture, and she looks at him, and then she looks at me. She looks back at the picture, and then she's like, no. And I'm confused. I'm like, what? Like, why would she say something like that? She then tells me that she thinks he's really handsome, but that I can't marry him and that I can't have babies with him because, and please don't come at my Spanish. My Spanish isn't as good as it used to be. But she said, mejorar la raza or mejorando la raza. And I was so confused because at the time my Spanish was good. That was the whole point of me studying abroad, was that it was going to be my minor. And what she had said literally translated in my head was better the race. And I was confused as to why she would say something like that to me or what it even meant. And so I asked her for clarity. She broke it down and basically explained to me that because he was a dark-skinned man and that I was a dark-skinned woman, that we shouldn't be together because it would then produce dark-skinned children and that wouldn't be advantageous to me.
So you heard her say the Spanish lady who she was with, when she showed the lady the picture of her boyfriend, who was basically Black, she said Black and Indian, but he has to look more Black. For the lady to say what she said. Mejor la raza. Better the race. But that lady has some nerves to tell her something like that. Because they don't want to have children with Black people. This is taught to all of them. So if you live in a Latino neighborhood or Latino live in your neighborhood, you have to know that. They have been told not to mix with you, not to breed with you or have children because it's holding back the race. And a Latina girl told me that. Remember I told you the other Latina girl told me what her father said about Black guys? They in gangs. They don't take care of their kids. They don't like to work. That same Latina told me also that her parents told her, when you date a Black person, it brings the family down. Okay? And when you date a white person, it brings the family up. That's what she told me, the same girl. Like it makes you look bad. It brings the family down. It holds you back. When they date Black guys, she said that's why her parents told her not to do it. To only mix with her own or white.
And y'all know the sound like the nigga was too stunned to speak. I mean, I just stared at her because she was not a fair-skinned woman. And I couldn't believe that she was saying something like that to me. But after she said that, I noticed the way that I was experiencing Ecuador and the way that my peers were experiencing Ecuador were like 2 completely different experiences, night and day. And the sad part is, if I'm being very honest with myself, this was definitely foreshadowing for what was to come probably 8 months later when I ended up dating the guy who was Puerto Rican and told me that he couldn't talk to me anymore because his family was not going to accept the fact that he was dating a Black woman. Colonization really did a number on everybody.
The anti-Blackness is the real pandemic globally. That's the biggest issue. And these people who don't have melanin or have a little bit of melanin that want to support white supremacy, it's because they're weak. So they try to look for power somewhere else. But anytime you think that you are better than somebody else because you have less pigment, like, you're weak as fuck. Like, stop with the inferiority complex. Like, what is wrong with you?
Does it surprise you that California's largest racial bias cases are of Latino employees discriminating against and abusing Black employees? So this is what's happening. The LA Times reports that Black employees were being called the N-word, having bananas waved at them, and subject to other intolerable work conditions at the hands of their Latino supervisors and peers. One Black man even experienced night terrors and was diagnosed with PTSD after the racism he experienced. But it also went beyond insults. Latino supervisors would needlessly fire Black employees and or pass them up for roles for less experienced Latino employees. And recently, similar incidents occurred at a UCLA hospital, a Century Valley vegetable farm, and a San Diego college. According to the article, one LA attorney said that 20 years ago, the feeling was that minorities could not be discriminated against each other. But in answer to my original question, the article also points out that anti-black prejudice in Latino-dominated workplaces comes as no surprise to scholars of race relations due to a shared legacy of slavery and racial prejudice in the US and Latin America.
Now that lady you see in this video, she is from Spain. She's a Spaniard. And basically she's going to let the Latinos know that she don't care about slavery and she's not going to apologize. So this is a real Spaniard person. She's going to let you know that she don't care about them. And this is the problem. This is where the problem lies with racist Latinas and racist Indians. These Latinas, they've been colonized, enslaved, and had their culture destroyed by the Spaniards, the Spain, right? But a Latina would still sleep with a Spaniard guy from Spain and an Indian female, you know, that dot on her forehead. She would still sleep with a British guy from the UK. They don't have a problem with them, the people who destroyed their culture. But they have a problem with black people who've done nothing to them. So they won't date a black guy when black people didn't colonize them, didn't destroy their culture, and gave them a bastard language. But your parents could tell you to be racist to black people and don't date black guys, but it's okay for you to date your oppressor and slave masters? You Latinas and Indians are some dumb hoes. It's supposed to be the other way around. You're supposed to have a problem with the people who done something to you, not black people. Black people ain't do nothing to your culture.
That happened 500 years ago. I am 30 years old. I am not responsible for that. Ergo, I'm not apologizing. Question. Japan got not one, but 2 nuclear blasts. And they're like super developed country. What's your excuse? What's the excuse of Latin America? Because what happened to them was 500 years ago. The gold that we stole, I'm still waiting on my share because I never got anything. Wow.
I'm fighting with Dominican TikTok again. The way that some of y'all cape for y'all Spanish colonizer is fucking embarrassing. It's giving very Stockholm syndrome. But that's okay, because school is in session. And yes, I'm Dominican, and I'm gonna need my people to be a little smarter than this woman right here. She claims that the laws of Burgos guaranteed rights to indigenous people before anyone else in the West. Let's read what happened during the laws of Burgos. The laws of Burgos are the first legal code in the Americas directing Spaniards to read aloud a religious justification and demand of obedience from the native populations, known as el requerimiento. The law gives native peoples a chance to submit before being attacked or enslaved, but this is an impossible task since natives do not speak Spanish, and thus the Spaniards continue to enslave and seize indigenous lands. It required that indigenous people acknowledge the church as the ruler and superior of the whole world. But if you do not do this and maliciously make delay in it, I certify to you that with the help of God, we shall powerfully enter into your country and shall make war against you and in all ways and manners that we can, and shall subject you to the yoke and obedience of the church and of their highnesses. But wait. There's more. We shall take you and your wives and your children and shall make slaves of them, and as such shall sell and dispose of them as their highnesses may command. And we shall take away your goods and shall do you all the mischief and damage that we can. As to the vassals who do not obey and refuse to receive the Lord and contradict him, and we protest that the deaths and losses that accrue from this are your fault and not that of your highnesses or ours. You literally cannot make this shit up. There are so many things that you could be, but I'm gonna need you to be for real. The Spaniards were never benevolent to indigenous people or enslaved Africans. They were violent. They were violent. I'll say this again. They were violent. So initially, we didn't voluntarily mix in Latin America and in the Caribbean, especially not in Dominican Republic, where it all began. So what did we learn today, kiddos? Yes, before I open my mouth on TikTok, I should shut up and read a book. Que tenga un buen día.
Man, this is coming from a bald-headed, tatted Mexican. It's nothing but love. Nowadays, If people are small-minded, it don't matter what color you are. That needs to be kept to the back. Keep that negativity to the side. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the things that made you feel that way. As far as I'm concerned, it's nothing but love. It's progress over pedo all day. It's progress over bullshit. You know what I'm saying?